can those of you who are students, could you just turn your camera on just for a bit, just so that I can recognize or to meet you in person, especially those of you who are inquiring, and maybe just give a short background on your history and what you're interested about in our program. So I see Adrian, you've turned your camera on. Thank you very much.
Hi,
I guess let's start. Adrian, hello, good morning. Well, good morning for me, good evening for you.
evening. Good morning over there in Cambridge.
Yeah.
I don't know. Has my video turned on?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm from Malaysia. I'm a Malaysian student. Currently I'm working as an engineer. So I'm actually looking into ESG kind of practices or courses that I can develop my skills, that I can contribute into the corporate world. Also my skills. So looking forward to the introduction.
All right, thank you very much, Adrian. I see Fatin, you've turned on your camera as well. A bit of an introduction for yourself.
Hello, I'm Fatin and I'm from Malaysia as well. So hello everybody. So I'm really looking forward to this introduction. Since I actually graduated from my degree in UPM like last year. So I'm interested to go into depth with this ESG. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Shirare, Prof. Aga Muthu, and Tan Sri Nurul, I know, are all staff members in the JSC. Afterwards, I will show you their pictures in some of my slides. Evie is also a staff member. She's more on the teaching or tech assistance side of things. So she's also part of the JSC. Yoke, I've seen your name before, so I'm going to assume you're one of the Sunway staff. Is that right, Yo? Hello?
Yeah.
Yes. Can I just confirm what's your background?
No, I'm Kate Ho, one of the staff, teaching
staff.
staff.
Sorry, Kate Ho. Yeah. Okay. Yes, that's why I remember. Kate Ho, hi. Yeah. So he's one of our staff members as well. Yeah. We need some full names in the future, but thanks. Mansita and Steve. Can I just get your background?
Hello.
Hi. Hi, hello, Steve. Mansita, hi.
Hello, I'm not sure if you can see me, but can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mansita, yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Mansital. I'm 22. I'm currently a student in Monash. I'm completing my bachelor's in medical bioscience. This July I'll be graduating, and I'm actually very interested in the sustainability field. So I'm looking to further my studies in this field, hopefully to catapult me in this area in the future in my career. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So we have two fresh grads, one more sort of mid-career individual, Adrian. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, I also graduated quite a few long time ago. Now I'm 31. I'm graduate from UMT, University Malaysia Terengganu. My bachelor in marine science. So I also quite interested in sustainable development management as well. So that's why I come to join this kind of trials.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. Right. So we have quite a mixed audience here, which is completely fine. That's the nature of the MSDM. We do have, actually, the majority of our students are not fresh grads. So I'll come into that in a second when I talk about student populations. But I think I've tested everybody here in the call. So let me move on to the introduction. Well, firstly, I haven't actually introduced myself. I'm Dr. CHEN Jit Ern. I am the head of the Jeffrey Sachs Center, as well as the program leader for the Masters in Sustainable Development Management. This is the program that we'll be talking about today. It is a master's program, and also critically, it belongs legally, or according to the Malaysian Qualification Agency rules, it is considered a management type masters. So when we talk about in Malaysia, we do have certain criteria to assign programs in specific areas. And so in our case, the management at the end of our title is a key word there. it puts us in the same category as the MBAs, for example. And indeed, that's actually the fact of the matter is that our masters is actually meant to compete against MBAs. I think that's an important information for all students who would like to join up in our program. The reason being is that the background of this program initially was to develop a curriculum to educate quote unquote middle managers in a corporate setting or a government setting, some kind of organizational structure. And the idea here is that we want to impart the basic knowledge of managerial skills as per our requirements under the classifications that our program is under, as well as to bring in the interdisciplinary nature of sort of why sustainability has become an important issue nowadays, right? So the idea here is that the backbone of the program is sort of a MBA, and you see that afterwards when I go through the subjects on offer. We have core subjects and elective subjects. You will see that the core subjects would fit more in the kind of managerial category, while our elective subjects are more in the interdisciplinary field, right? And so that is the nature of this program in a nutshell. Now, going on to first the people who run this program. So I'm here. This is as the head of center as well as the program leader for the masters. We have Jeffrey Sachs here as the chairman of the JSC. Now, just to control expectations, Jeffrey Sachs is not based here. He is based still back in Colombia in the United States, but he comes and visits us twice a year for about 5 to 6 days. Well, 3 to 4 days, I should say. And the last visit was actually last month. So actually, earlier this month, yes. So he does come from time to time, and he also calls in quite often. So we will get to see him give some lectures. I think the next time he'll be calling in will be in March. This is for the subject that I teach, Earth Climate Systems. So if you are interested in joining the class, do send me or Ken a note, and I will put you guys as to be invited to this special class that Jeff will be giving. We also have Professor Leong Chun Hing. He is the Deputy Director of the Jeffrey Sachs Center, and he's also the program leader for the PhD program. So that is something some students who, if you want to continue your education, we do have a PhD program as well. But that's for the future. For now, let me introduce to you the staff members, most of whom are actually on this call. We have Professor Agamutu, who's expert in waste management. And so he teaches the subject on waste management, as well as being as a distinguished scientist. He was also in charge of our research projects program. I'll talk about that as well later when we talk about the structure of our program. We have a new staff member here, Dr. Sharara. She will be, her background is in land use and agriculture and natural ecosystems. So she will be teaching sustainable agriculture as well as sustainable forestry. So these are two of our elective subjects that you can take that are more bio-based. And then we have Dr. Yeo Kiat Ho. He is on the energy side of things. So he specializes more on the development of batteries, for example. So he will be teaching on the energy elective, as well as the introduction to sustainable development. So that's a more general subject, that is a core subject, and that will involve going through some of the SDGs, the SDGs that everyone talks a lot about, what actually the SDGs are, and how do we quantify or monitor the attainment or the failure to attain the various SDGs. Lastly, in terms of our academic staff, we have Tan Sri Dr. Nurul Aino here. So she has had a very distinguished career as a Malaysian government servant. So she ended her career as a Secretary General of the Ministry of Higher Education. So now she's here with us. co-teaching in the subject of governance. And so she will be quite an important person to talk to if you have any questions about how plans are actually implemented in terms of the national level, right? So it's all well and good to have all sorts of plans to achieve the SDGs, but she has the inside knowledge on the details or the nuances of what can be achieved and what may be a bit too ambitious, let's put it that way, right? So these are our staff members in the Jeffrey Sachs Center. I keep going the wrong direction, I apologize. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to use my keyboard, yes. Okay, so we also have adjunct staff members. So these are members who are not full-time staff, but they teach in the various subjects that we have, starting with Professor David Gavil. So he is a satellite expert, or satellite mapping expert, I should say. So he doesn't work with the satellites. He works with the images that the satellites produces. And the field of expertise in his case is forest fires. So he's concerned about both forest fires that happen in Indonesia. This is related to palm oil expansion, palm oil plantation expansion. I think that's got him kicked out of Indonesia twice now. But also he's interested in fires that happen in the Siberian taiga. So this is where you have global warming happening in the forest along or below the Arctic line. As temperatures go up, you get more and more forest fires there, and those fires are a serious concern in terms of CO2 emissions. So he will be talking about that in the Earth Climate Systems subject as well. We have Dr. Lim Jia. She is teaching, she's a supply chain expert, so she teaches on sustainable management and operations in terms of the ways in which supply chains can be better optimized for sustainability. And then we have Doctors Saga and Professor Velayan. The two of them, Dr. Saga is trained as a marine biologist, and Professor Velayan was a senior Zoo Negara vet for about 30 years or so, right? So he's retired now from Zoo Negara. So between the two of them, they know a lot about animals, how to keep them, how to breed them, and they teach in the biodiversity course, right? So we have a range of staff members with very different disciplines as a reflection of what we intend to achieve in this program, which is the interdisciplinary nature of our subject, of our program. Now, as you may note, we don't have that many direct staff associated with us, but we do have a lot of things we want to teach. So here are some of the staff members who are not part of the JSC directly. They are members of Sunway University, and they teach some of the other subjects that we simply don't have the manpower to cover directly. So for example, we have Professor Lau San Lun here. So he teaches on the elective of IoT, information technology. We have Professor Susila Devi. She teaches sustainable management operations from the corporate side of things. We have Professor Wong Chin Huat. Some of you who watch Astro Awani may recognize his face. He tends to crop up on TV every time there's a national level election. So he's a political scientist. So he co-teaches with Tan Sri Nurul Aino on the governance subject. In his case, more on the political side of things, right? So Nurul teaches on the government side, what's happening in the bureaucracy. Chin Huat teaches about what's happening in the political parties. That's his field of expertise. We also have Professor Ye Kim Ling. He's on the Economic Advisory Council to Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, and he will be co-teaching in the economics subject coming in the next block. Lastly, we have Mr. Tan Sing Lee. So he is a finance expert, and he teaches the core subject of finance and sustainability. So you can see here we have a range of individuals now, not part of the JSC directly, but within the university that help us teach on the subjects that we are lacking the individuals for directly in the Jeffrey Sachs Center. Hang on. I seem to have missed a slide here. Let me just check. Oh, okay, never mind. Going on to the structure of the program. So I've talked about the people who teach. Now let's talk about how the program is structured. We have 14 subjects that you need to complete, each of them worth 3 credit hours. So the logic here is that you need 42 credit hours to graduate from the program, right? The way it works is that of the 14 subjects, 7 of these subjects will be the core subjects. 3 of these will be the research subjects, and then you take 4 electives, and you choose these 4 from an option of 7 elective subjects. Okay. Now, before I go into the details of these subjects, I just want to talk about the study length. One of the things about this program is that we have a sort of a flexible study length. The minimum study length is 12 months, and the maximum is 3 years. And we have 3 intakes a year. So we have an intake in January, we have an upcoming intake in March, and then we have the next intake in September. Now, the reason why we have this difference in length is because, technically speaking, at the moment, we don't have a full-time or part-time division in our subject. We only have one kind of intake, which is considered a full-time intake. But the way it works is that as a true full-time student, where you take 3 subjects every block, don't worry about this terminology, I'll go through that in a second. But in other words, if you take the fastest possible route to completion, you can finish this master's in 3 years, in 12 months. But most of you, or in this case, half of you, already have presumably a job that you're doing. And so you're doing this more on a part-time basis, in which case you can take fewer subjects per block, usually 1 subject per block, and in which case it takes you about 2.5 years to complete. So hence the 3 years that we give you. And anything in between. So depending on how fast you want to do your studies, I would say on average, most students finish within 1 year to 3 months, or 1 year, 1.5 years, so 1 year, 6 months. And the nature of it is such that all of you be considered full-time students, but you are able to take these subjects at your own pace up to 3 years. Okay. I'll talk about the mechanics of that in a second, but for now, this is just the main point here is that all of you will be considered full-time students in the system in terms of your technicalities of it. So we don't have a part-time version of the program, or I should say we technically can offer, but we don't. We offer full-time for all students, but within the full-time, you have the option to be as fast as 1 year or as slow as 3 years. Now, let's go into the actual subjects, right? So I said there will be 7 core subjects. These are the ones on the left here. Can I just check, do you guys see my mouse? This arrow, just... Yeah, you can, okay, good. Right, so you can see here that we have many of our core subjects, finance, econs, corporate sustainability, SMO, social entrepreneurship. These subjects are very much on the management side of things, right? Business management-ish. And that's, as I said, because of the background of this program, it is considered a management program according to the government. And so we have our core subjects based on what you would consider the sort of bread and butter MBA subjects, so to speak. In addition to those, though, are 2 subjects that are more interdisciplinary. We have the Introduction to Sustainable Development here, and that will be taught by Dr. Yeo Kiat Ho. This is mainly an introduction to the concepts of SDGs and the various components that make up sustainable development as a concept. And then we have Earth Climate Systems up here. So this Earth Climate System subject is meant to give you a background into why we are in the state that we're in, primarily focused on the environmental sustainability side of things, right? So the idea here is that when we talk about sustainability now, we could mean many things, but one of the key components of sustainability is environmental sustainability. And this core subject here is intended to give you an idea of why we are in the state we're in. So I teach this subject, so I go through the various concepts of why we have climate change, what are the consequences of having increase CO2 in the atmosphere and in the oceans, so on and so forth, right? Now, at the bottom here, you see 3 subjects, research methods, research project, and 1 and 2. The key here is they have research in the name. As part of our education in this program, we wish to impart the experience and expertise to all students of the research methodology. So the idea is, how will you carry out a research project if you were to do a research project, with the aim that you would then use these skills to critically analyze research that comes out in any field that you would be analyzing in the future. Not necessarily to the extent that you become a researcher, but at least that you recognize the basic principles that go into research, right? So in other words, we want you to be able, as a corporate executive, to at least recognize when you are holding a research paper in your hands, not just be able to read the summary at the top, but also to have at least some appreciation of the methodology. How do research papers or research projects come to the conclusion that they do? Right? And so here I'll talk about the timeline and the planning in a second, but the point here is that you will first take research methods as a subject, and you'll be educated on how to carry out a research project in terms of the methodologies. Then you will do research project 1, where you will put together a research project that you are interested in. In other words, in research methods, you learn about the science of putting together a research project. In research project 1, you put together a draft of a research project. You will look for a supervisor. In this case, Professor Agamutu will be the person in charge of helping match you with a suitable supervisor, a one-to-one supervisor. And then in research project 2, you would run the research project that you planned in research project 1. Okay, well, I'll leave it at that for now because I'll talk about this later on. But that's the principle of the core subjects and the research projects. And these are the ones that you must pass every single one of them. Okay. On the right side, you have your elective subjects. You see here now they are very different in terms of compared to the core subjects. Here you have the true interdisciplinary nature of the MSDM popping up. Right. So we have waste management. I mentioned Prof. Agamutu teaches that. Governance, Tan Sri Nurul teaches that. Biodiversity, I teach that. Smart Tech, Professor Liao San Lun, so on and so forth. Right. So here, what happens is that you pick, depending on your interests or depending on what you feel is most relevant for your career, the various electives to top up your credit hours to 42 to graduate. Okay. Now it's not as straightforward as just to point out here in these electives is there are certain combinations that are not easy to take. We'll talk about that in a second. But for all intents and purposes, you have a large degree of freedom to choose which elective you want to choose. All right. Now, before I go into the nitty-gritty of the program structure now, in terms of the calendar, do we have any questions from the audience?
There's one comment, Jit Ern.
Well, yeah, sure.
The students must think carefully when they are choosing the electives because that should actually help them with their RP2 or project.
Yes. Okay. So yes. So that's good advice from the man who's running the research projects. Make sure you choose electives that dovetail with what you think you're going to do for your research project. Right. Thanks, Prof. Aga. Now, if there are no other comments, I'm going to move on to the calendar so that you have a general idea. So I've given you a very rough idea of the structure. Now we'll go into some of the details, right? So the first thing that you should note about this, what you see here is the yearly calendar for 2024. The program is structured, divided into 3 semesters. So if you look on the left here, semester 1, 2, 3, right? They're equal semesters. Each semester is divided into 2 blocks. So you can see that you have block 1 and block 2. in semester 1, block 5 and block 6 in semester 3, right? Please do not confuse these two concepts. Every semester is 4 months, every block is 2 months, right? 2 blocks in 1 semester, okay? Now, inside each block, you learn from start to finish up from 1 to 3 subjects. So inside each of these boxes here, these are the various subjects that we just talked about in the previous slide. The ones in black are the core subjects and the research subjects, right? Don't worry about cycle A and B first. We'll talk about that later. Let's just move on to the blue subjects, which are the electives, all right? So I mentioned that you should only take, well, you can only take up to 3 subjects every block. That's actually a government rule, right? Which means that in the case of electives, there are some electives that are you can't take both of, at least not within 1 year, right? So for example, if you are interested in both smart tech and energy, so smart tech here and energy there, you might want to consider extending your studies so that you take smart tech the first time around and then you take energy the second time around, for example, okay? I always recommend all students to make sure that they finish the core subjects first before they think about taking the elective subjects, if they are taking longer than 1 year to complete their program. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me dial back to this idea of completing a program in 1 year, okay? Just for the sake of illustration, let's assume that you're coming in January, okay? Now, for you guys, your most likely intake point will be March or September. So the purple lines indicate intake points, all right? So most likely, ideally, you guys will be coming in March, but let's just assume that you were coming in January. At which point, if you told me that you want to finish in 1 year, then I would tell you, okay, if you want to finish in 1 year, you need to ensure that in every block, you take all the electives, all of the core subjects, and you must pass them. And you need to take 4 electives in any order here, but you need to pass all of them, right? So for example, for the sake of simplification, you take the first of the blue subjects here, okay? Now, at the same time, looking at cycle A and B, if you came in January or March, and you wanted to finish in 1 year, you need to take the research subjects that are in cycle A. And the reason for that is because unlike the other subjects here, which do not have prerequisites, I should say, so all of the subjects in the left here can be taken in any order, right? There's no order that you need to take them. The research subjects, research methods, research project 1, research project 2, need to be taken in that specific order. On top of that, you would notice that research project 1 and 2 span 2 blocks, or rather they cover 1 semester, right? So in terms of the timeline, most subjects are within 2 months. The research project subjects are in 4 months, okay? So if you come in March or January, you need to finish your research methods and you need to pass it in block 2, right? Remember the block system, okay? You need to pass your research project 1 in block 3 and 4, and then complete your research project 2 in block 5 and 6. Now, let's assume you are a working adult. You don't have the time to dedicate to finishing everything in 1 year. You want to extend your time to 2 years, let's say. Then what I would recommend is that rather than taking 3 subjects in every block, so when I say 3, usually what we mean is 1 core subject, 1 elective subject, and 1 research subject. Yeah, I hope that makes sense to everyone. That's if you want to finish in 1 year. If you have more time, you can take an extra year to complete. What we can recommend is that you do core subjects, research methods, and then the electives. And after you finish all of these subjects, or as many of them as you can, then you continue doing your research projects at the end. The thing about research projects is that we run it twice a year. Okay, there's a cycle A and a cycle B. Now, why does this exist? Well, if you guys are coming in September, right, they rule that, well, what we told the Malaysian government is that every student that enters our program in any intake can finish within 1 year, right? That's sort of the promise we made to the Malaysian government. Which means that if you come in September, if you wanted to finish in 1 year, you would take cycle B of the research program. And then what happens is that you wrap around cycle B in the next year. So for example, if you look at cycle B here, research project 1, research project 2, the students who are taking these subjects are not from this year. They are from last year, September or beyond. Right? I hope that makes sense. So cycle A and cycle B just reflects the fact that we have to run the research subjects twice in a year to accommodate our intakes. And that's also the reason why we have this weird intake, rather than, you would think that maybe our second intake in the year would be in May. The reason we don't do that is because if we did that, it would break our promise to MQA that every student in every intake that enters our program can finish in 1 year, right? Because we would then need to run a third cycle for research methods, if that makes sense to everyone. All right. Coming back to the extreme case of if you really are a busy, working adult, what you can do is do only one subject every block, right? You remember you need 14 subjects, 2 subjects which span 2 blocks. So the research project 1 and 2, they span 2 blocks. So 14 subjects is equal to 16 blocks, right? And in 3 years, you would cover 18 blocks, right? If you remember the maths, which means that if you want to take it slow and you do one subject every block, assuming you pass all of them, and hopefully you do, you would take 16 blocks to complete, which would be slightly more than 2.5 years, right? Any questions at this point about how this program is structured? All right. Since I don't see any questions, I assume that that's very clear to everyone. So now this is the yearly structure, right? Let's move down to what does a block look like. Yeah. So what you're seeing here is the timetable for semester 1, block 1 of 2024. So this is the semester, this is the block that we are currently in right now, right? Let's move back up. In this block, we have Earth Climate Systems, IoT, Energy, and RP1. Now, bear in mind that the students who come in January cannot take RP1 because they haven't done their research methods yet. So RP1 is for students who are coming in from the previous year. So we go back to the timetable for block 1. Now, what you can see here, and this is a question I get asked a lot from students, is how will their weekends look like? To be honest with you, it really depends block to block. And the reason for that is because we only set the block timetable 1 month in advance from the block starting. So we apologize if this makes planning a bit challenging for some students. Whilst we set the year timetable the year before, the block timetable is only fixed about a month before the block starts. Okay. Now, the blocks look like this. You have the Saturday and Sunday. These are the days in which most of our classes will be held. Each day is divided into 3 slots. Each slot is equivalent to 2 hours of teaching, roughly. Technically, if you look at the time, it's 2 hours, 15 minutes. The 15 minutes is for the in-class break. And the way it works is that, for example, for Earth Climate Systems, if you only take my subject, Earth Climate Systems, you would have classes on the weekend of week 1, week 2, week 3, week 6, and week 7. Right, so there's obviously no classes during public holidays. This is Chinese New Year this year. And for ECS, I did not have any class on week 4. If you take energy, then you will not have classes on week 1, but you have classes on 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7, so on and so forth, right? So if you take multiple subjects, and I hope you see here, your weekends are going to start to fill up. This is where the idea of if you are a full-time working adult, and you take 3 subjects every block, just be careful, because what that means is that pretty much your entire weekends are going to be taken up in classes. Just to point out, you will notice that IoT and energy seem to be clashing in classes, and this brings me back to the in blocks where we have 2 electives to choose from. So if you go back if you go back to here, block 1 and block 5, in blocks where you have 2 electives to choose from, normally we recommend that students only pick one of the electives, because when we do our timetable, the 2 electives are allowed to clash in terms of their timeline. Right? So for example, on the second week, the 21st of January, IoT and energy have 2 classes of 4 hours where they clash with each other. So we do allow some students who are very, very enthusiastic to take both subjects. I'll talk about how we deal with that later. But ideally, we say that try to pick only one elective every block. Okay, so there are some electives that do clash with each other. If you are a student who's taking more than 1 year, usually that's not a problem. We say you take the next cycle for the elective. Okay. Now, there will be some classes that overspill into the weekdays, but we assure you that in those classes, it will always be after working hours, right? So the majority of classes will be held during the weekends. Some classes may be held during the weekdays, and they will be after 6 p.m. Right? But those are relatively rare. Most of the classes are on the weekdays. That's why on the weekends. This is the timetable for the upcoming block. This is semester 1, block 2. As you can see, once again, quite a full schedule. Note in this case, the subjects that are clashing are the RP1 and the RM subject, but that's fine, as by definition, you can't be doing 2 different research projects research subjects at the same time because of the prerequisite. Right? You can't be doing research methods and RP1 at the same time anyways. So those 2, all of the research project subjects can clash with each other freely. Now, any questions before I go on to the concept of hybrid classes, online classes, face-to-face classes? All right, no? Okay, so in that case, if you look at the schedule now, you will see that I indicate the first word of every class is the subject, WACE, RM, social. The second word is hybrid, physical or online. And then the third word is tutorials, lectures or workshops, right? Don't worry about the difference between lectures, tutorials or workshops for now. Those are technicalities. But the thing that is important for all of you is the concept of hybrid, online, face-to-face, right? So the MSDM program that we are running actually consists of 2 different programs run together simultaneously. We have the conventional mode, something that we call the blended learning MSDM. This is the original MSDM that we launched in 2019, as well as the open distance learning version of the MSDM. We run these programs simultaneously as the result of COVID-19. So during the COVID era, we ran these programs together. But since the end of COVID-19, these 2 programs are run slightly separately when it comes to the details on what we need to record for the government. Now, what I mean by that is that for the open distance learning version of our program, you are able to do all of your learning online, fully online, right? You don't have to attend classes in person. For those students who are international students, you don't get a student visa if you do the ODL version, right? Now, the trade-off is that you get, because everything is online, you have much more flexibility officially with regards to how you want to do your learning. And when it comes to the way in which we teach you, we have 2 main ways in which we deliver our material, right? As a consequence of us trying to run the ODL program together with the conventional program. So I've defined these two ways of delivery, subject delivery, as type A and type B. Now, type A delivery is when a lecturer, for example, Professor Agamutu, he likes to make pre-recorded lectures, right? So he has all of his lectures pre-recorded, posted online. And then what happens is that for the tutorials that he needs to run, so the lectures are lectures, the tutorials are where there's the interaction that happens between the professor and the students. He runs two different tutorials separately for the conventional students as well as the ODL students. So the conventional students, what will happen is that they will come to on-campus sessions where he will run the tutorials physically, but not recorded, right? Because the physical classes don't, in the case of the type A teaching, will not have the hybrid camera capturing the session. On the other hand, Prof. Agamutu will also have online tutorials, and these ones are recorded the same way that we are doing this recording now on Zoom, and this will be for the ODL students. And we will be a bit stricter on making sure that the right students goes to the right sessions, right? So if you've signed up for the online program, most of the time we encourage you to make sure that you attend the online tutorials. And if you sign up for the physical program, then you should attend the live in-person tutorials. Despite the fact that you will be all in one class, the students from both programs are mixed together when it comes to most other activities. Okay. Now, the second type of teaching, type B, which is the one that I mainly do, is that I will have all of my lectures live in person on campus, where I expect students who sign up for the physical class to turn up in physical lectures. But at the same time, I'm being recorded live, right? So there's a live version of me delivering my lectures, my lectures, just as what I'm doing now. And that recording is cleaned up and cut into the correct setup, put online for the ODL students to watch at their leisure. Okay. Just to point out, because all students have access to the same material, if you sign up as a conventional student, you still have access to all of these recorded lectures, but we expect you to turn up for all the physical lectures because you sign up for the conventional mode. Okay. In my case, therefore, because I'm giving hybrid lectures, when I give my tutorials, I give them online for all students. So I don't have physical tutorials at all. I have only live online tutorials that are recorded. Okay. All assessments will be held online. So that's how we run the program simultaneously for both the conventional individuals as well as the ODL individuals. Now, any questions here about how we run the program in terms of material delivery? Okay. Just to point out, these are the two extremes. I just know this because I know how Prof. Agamutu runs his waste management program. So the two of us operate on the extremes of this delivery. Different lecturers may have mixtures of these two methods, right? So on the one side, you have pre-recorded lectures. On the other side, you have hybrid lectures. And there's everything in between, right? Some lecturers prefer 50-50. Half of their lectures are recorded. The other half are done live and then broadcasted online. Right. So this is a diagram of what I was trying to point out. So you have the concept of online versus face-to-face. That's different from the concept of live versus pre-recorded. Just to point out, you can have, right now what we're doing is live online. So that's on the top left here. Sorry, top left here. And then you can have a face-to-face pre-recorded. So this is where you have your teacher just shows a movie to a classroom. So that's face-to-face pre-recorded. And we try to keep a large chunk of our teaching hybrid in order to achieve both the traditional teaching benchmarks as well as the ODL benchmarks. Okay. This table on the right here is just to remind everyone that because this is a master's program, the passing mark is now 60, not 40. Right. This is just a small reminder here for everyone. Now, In terms of the number of students we've had, we have had roughly 130 students who have graduated. As of the December last year, we have active 75 plus students, and about 20% of our students are international students. So this data here is, I haven't updated my graph. This is actually the end of last year, or the end of the year before. In terms of our student profile, age-wise, you notice that we actually have more students who are in their mid-career rather than fresh grads, and that's the nature of our program. We are happy to have fresh graduate students, but generally speaking, because we are competing or we target MBA type market, we tend to have students who are who are more advanced in their careers. Okay. In terms of entry requirements, this is just some to point out for all of you. What normally we do is we look at three things. We look at your bachelor's degree, whether it is relevant to the program. Now, when I say relevant, I'm referring to business type degrees or something similar. We also look at the CGPA. Now, this one is quite critical. There is a minimum cutoff of roughly 2.5. The absolute cutoff is 2, but we would ideally hope that you have a CGPA of at least 2.5 for your bachelor's degree. And then lastly, your work experience. So if you have at least 5 years of working experience, that actually helps us, especially when it comes to people who do not have the quote-unquote bachelor's degree in the field of business, right? So I think, who was it just now who said that you graduated as on the biology side of things? If you have 5 years of working experience and your CGPA is above 2.5, usually that's not a problem. We can just easily justify, because this program is meant to accept people with interdisciplinary backgrounds, especially if they already have working experience for some time. If you are a fresh graduate who has a degree that is not in the business field, don't worry. All we need to do is we need to get a bit of extra steps to pre-qualify you for joining our master's program, and I'll talk about that on a one-on-one basis to each of the students who require such additional pre-qualification. Now on to the fees. Because so what you're seeing here is the fee structure, assuming that you finish in 1 year, right? So you recognize the block nomenclature. We have 6 blocks in a year. In this case, the assumption is that you are planning to finish in a year. And the way that the tuition fee is structured is that in this case, what's happening is that it's assumed that in block 1, you're doing 2 subjects. In block 2, you're doing 3 subjects. So these numbers here reflect the number of subjects that this idealized student is taking. Now, the tuition fee per subject is 3,009 ringgits. That is before we implement the bursary discount. So all students who join our program for year 2024 will have a bursary of 10,000 ringgit taken off their fees costs. So I mentioned just now that every subject is 3,009 in terms of costs. You will be on average discounted by 700 ringgit per subject because of the bursary, right? So this is where this minus 1,400 comes from. So effectively, what you are paying for each subject is 3,002. Okay, at least the first time you take every subject, rather than 3,009. So the way we have set up our system is such that if you do your studies slower, then you pay less per block, right? So if you only do 1 subject per block, then you pay 3,002. That I'm ignoring the enrollment fee and the deposit, right? Because those are one-time costs. Bear in mind, however, in the unfortunate case that you fail a subject and you need to retake the subject, unfortunately, you will need to retake the subject again at full cost. So if you fail the subject once and you retake it, you will be expected to pay 3,009 rather than 3,002. So that's just a strong incentive for students. When you sign up for a subject, please make sure that you are committed enough to pass it. Right? We don't have many failures in our system, but I can tell you that the most common way students fail is not handing in any assignments, and that's that's pretty much an automatic failure. So don't sign up for a subject unless you are committed to, at minimum, sending in all of your assessments. All right. Yes, so I mentioned just now about the bursary, this 10,000 ringgit that is applied automatically to all students. You don't have to apply for it. But there are two other bursary or scholarships that you can consider if you qualify for it. The first one is the alumni bursary. So if you graduated from Sunway University or Sunway College's Victoria University degree program, you are eligible for 30% off the tuition fees. This is not cumulative. You get one or the other, right? You either get a 10,000 discount, which is, I think, mathematically about 12% off your tuition fees, I think, or 18%, sorry. If you get the alumni bursary, that's 30% off. If you are a fresh Sunway University graduate and you're within the last 2 years, and you have a CGPA of 3.5 and above, you get 50% off. Okay, so if you qualify for one of these two, please let us know, because that one we require some paperwork. All right. I think that's pretty much it. So this is just a photo of our first intake in 2019 for the program. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Hi, Dr. Chen.
Hello, hi.
In here. So back to the hybrid structure of the program and on the online distance learning, I really still don't understand the structure of it. How is it going to be done? So like, for instance, the hybrids here mention of all classes. So does it mean that I can go according to the provided online session, or I'll go to the physical?
Okay, so let's just establish first, if you are a conventional student, right, you are expected to attend all classes that have a physical component, right? And what I mean by that is that whenever you see, like in this current slide I'm showing you, anything that says hybrid, right, you are expected to attend in person if you sign up for the hybrid subject or the hybrid program.
Okay.
Right? Sorry, if you sign up for the conventional program, that is the original MSDM. Now, if you sign up for the ODL version, you are encouraged to come in person if you want to, but you can do everything online for everything that says hybrid here.
Oh, I
right?
see.
If you see something here that says physical, right? Physical tutorial or what? If you sign up for ODL, it means automatically you don't need to consider it. You are not expected to come physically. Right?
But I'm attending the physical through online still, if I select the ODL. Do you mean that way? Or
okay, no. So what will happen is that if you select ODL, let me give you an example. Let's look at the 14th of April here, right?
Yeah.
There's a WACE online tutorial and a WACE physical tutorial here, right? What's actually happening is that Prof. Aga Muthu is running this tutorial for the online students and that tutorial for the physical students. Actually, they're the same tutorial.
Oh, okay, understood. All right.
Yeah. It is when you see a hybrid class like this one here, social hybrid lecture, social hybrid tutorial, both sets of students are expected to attend.
Okay, it's only both sessions need to attend, but it depends. If I choose ODL, then I'm going from online, and encouraged to be physical if I can. But the conventional one, then I must be physical.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, because the conventional one pre-assumes that you need to attend things physically all the time. The ODL one pre-assumes that you'll be over, ODL, a student could be completely overseas,
Okay.
right? So they can only attend online sessions.
Okay. Because I'm asking this is because I'm a working person, I might be sometimes being overseas. So
Yes.
in the lecture time, like you said, there are pre-recordings and some of them are live, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I can just access a certain website or link that I'll attend the course.
Yes, we will give you access to an online learning program called online learning website called eLearn, where all of these videos will be uploaded. So my recommendation for even for Malaysians who live in the Klang Valley who want to have more flexibility, take the ODL version, because you can come physically for the physical classes, but when you need to be online, then you just revert to your online mode.
Okay.
The other way around is more annoying. So if you are in KL and you take the conventional mode and then you need to be absent, it's sort of like it's like a process, right? You need to send in the letters, and we need to make sure that why are you absent, that kind of thing.
Understood. As well as the link that you are sharing, right? It's able to access it from China, right?
Oh wait, hang on. Let me be very clear about. Let me just be careful about.
Asking because my work sometimes may need to go to China, and I'm not sure is it accessible or not.
Now can we go through the Chinese firewall? I am not sure yet. So I was going to say yes. Yeah.
Zoom doesn't work in China.
Okay. So Zoom doesn't work in China. That's the first thing. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Secondly, Prof. Agamutu, have you tried logging into eLearn from China?
No, unless you use the VPN, but now recently they already put a block to VPN also.
Yeah, okay. So Prof. Agamutu has some positions in China, so he does go to China sometimes. And what I'm hearing from him, I've not considered this, but what I'm hearing from him now is, the China thing might be an issue, but that's not our problem. That's sort of the Chinese firewall. So Adrian, I can't 100% confirm, but I guess you need a good VPN then.
Okay. I think I have my way around that, but I'm just checking just in case.
Here's the good news. If you take the ODL version, aside from assessments, you are under time stress. Like there's a time limit.
Yeah.
But frankly, for lectures and stuff, if your work schedule is not too lengthy, you can be a bit behind. Then you come back to Malaysia and then you catch up.
Noted. But I need to write in something, do I?
No, if you're in ODL, no problem. If you take the ODL variant, we monitor you by your submission of assessments.
I see. Okay.
So that those assessments have a deadline, so those could be a bit problematic. But in terms of your learning and tutorial experience, it can be completely done online without the need to fit exactly the timetable that we have.
Noted. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's a good question about the Chinese firewall thing. I've not considered that.
Yeah, I mean recently online courses it's good actually. I'm wanting to learn something on the sustainability. It's just that when travels and especially if you go to China, China is the problem.
Okay. So I can assure you that for the lectures and tutorials, it won't be a problem. It's only the assessments, but we can sort of work that out.
Noted.
And in the case of assessments, it's only because we need to maintain the integrity of the assessment. In other words, because of the interaction between students knowing what the questions are, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
So yes. Any other questions? Okay. If not, then we are exactly at 6 p.m. over there, I think, right? So we can call it off now. Any last comments or suggestions that anyone wants to make? Right. If not, thank you everybody, and I hope to see you when we run the classes in March or in the September intake. All right. So thank you everyone, and have a good day.
Okay. Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks for attending, Prof.
Bye.
Aga.
There's a question
Keat Ho.
there's a
Oh.
question comment.
Prof. Agamuthu, I hear you say something, but I can't hear you. Can you repeat?
Not me. I think I saw some hands going up.
Oh, hands going up. Hang on.
Oh no, I just gave a thumbs up. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Alright.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Bye-bye.